What is going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Happy bye week. I hope everybody's doing well in your neck of the woods. I was talking in the chat before you got here, Amin, and talking about temperature. It's 63 up where I live and 54 in San Francisco. So it's nice and cool out. I'm digging this. It's going to get cold next week, though, I think, because, it's November where I am and it's unseasonably warm, but I guess we'll take it, right?
Yeah, we saw some rain this week also down in the Bay. Like we saw some rain this past week. So that was that we don't really get rain, or we haven't had rain for a while now, but so we got some rain this week, which was nice.
I want to say hi to all the people that are in the chat already. They were talking beforehand here. We got a couple of newbies that I met the other day. I just want to represent and say hi to everybody. Got to go way up, way up. There's been a conversation going. So, of course, we have Raphael562 always in here supporting the channel. I found out about these guys the other day. Ty Alston is on their panel, East Coast Red and Gold Podcast. You know I can get down with that because I'm from the East Coast. So thank you for you guys for representing and then coming over. I discovered you guys last week, and I discovered that Ty Alston is with you guys. So I definitely had to jump over. Of course, we have Brian Culp, who I will collaborate with sometime in the future soon. Once me, him, McNew, and maybe Ty Alston all get together, we'll do a little something. Let's see, who else we got in here? 49er Throwback, of course, always in my streams, always support me on Twitter. Thank you very, very much, as usual. Let's see, who else? We got one of the coolest cats on YouTube, Jay in the Bay. He's part of a stream that Amin here does on Monday called Straight Out of the Bay. I think it's Amin, Jay in the Bay, Celts Chronicles, and Bay Area Baller. So you guys can see him on Monday. You can watch us on the NWO, or you can go to their stream. They kind of move it around between their channels. So far, the NWO Monday stream is usually on my channel, but they might be changing soon. We got Ryan in here from one of my co-host on Monday with the NWO stream. Thank you, Ryan, for coming in. Of course, we got Bashar, a pizza making brother from another mother. How you doing, man? Frank Tom Ocean, old supporter of the channel, going way back. I'm not saying you're old. I'm saying you're a supporter going way back. I'm trying to get better at looking at the stream and talking to people. We got Damian Lee in here. What's going on, my man? Thank you very much for coming through. Look who we got. Dude, we got all-stars in here today. We got Rohan Chakravarthy. What's going on, buddy? Oh, my goodness gracious alive. Who else?
We were talking about weather. He's in Wisconsin right now. I mean, it's cold. It gets cold down in Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's supposed to be cold where I am, but I'll take the nice weather. So we're at the bye week. 49ers are 4-4. My first topic here, I guess, was just what's the story? Let's see where we are. Let me go to my topics here. It's the story of the first half. Story of the first half of the 49ers. I'll go real quick and just say that the 49ers of the first half were very, very up and down, inconsistent, not having both sides of the ball play well in the same game until we saw the Rams game. So it's hard to get a feel on this team. Jimmy played really well against the Rams, and it's hard to like. I'm always the guy who wants to have confidence, but like there's been a pretty big body of work with him and this team, especially this season. All I'll say is we have the talent, the coaching, the players to have a second half run, but it's got to come down to if we can get a game through the rest of or every game through the rest of the second half, like we saw against the Rams, we have a good chance. What did you take from the first half of this season?
Kind of what you mentioned, right? The inconsistencies. This team is very talented, but there's been a lot of inconsistencies this year, right? There's a lot of games on the schedule that the Niners were favored to win in, and they weren't able to capitalize. Speaking of, the Falcons game, or speaking of that Chicago game, a lot of inconsistencies. And you kind of mentioned it about that Rams game. We haven't really seen all three phases of the ball in one particular game all play well until we saw that Rams game, which was the last week before the bye. So that was definitely encouraging. But just a lot of inconsistencies in the first half. We know this team is talented. We know the potential this team has. We know the players that we have on the roster, and this team can definitely make a second run. Second half run to make it to the playoffs and have a good spot in the NFC, potential first seed. But this team is talented, and the story of the first half has basically just been inconsistencies and not capitalizing on opportunities and just shooting yourselves in the foot. The Niners in a lot of the games in the first half were constantly shooting themselves in the foot, whether that was with penalties, whether that was with not making the stop on third down, having penalties on third down, offensively not being able to get going. Jimmy sometimes making bad mistakes, offense receivers not catching balls. I mean, overall the first half had a lot of ups and downs. But we know this team is talented, and we know this team has the potential to make a second half run like they did potentially last year when they got their fire lit under them, and they were ready to go, and they went 7-2 in the last 9 games of the season. So this team can definitely make a second half push and potentially make it to the playoffs. So yeah, just the first half, just been a lot of inconsistencies, but we know the talent on this football team, and this team when they're playing at their best, this team can beat anybody in the NFC.
I like how you say beat anybody in the NFC. The AFC is a whole different story.
Yeah.
Real quick, I just want to say thank you to Rohan. He said it's his first ever super chat to anyone ever. So I appreciate that I am your inaugural super chat dude. We have Niner Gang Wolfcast in here. Another new stream that I discovered the other day. They're really good.
He's been killing it lately. He had a Ponte on, Jesse Naylor.
Yeah, you're dude. I was gonna say, I just want to say to all you guys that are in here, a lot of you are streamers, dude. Like, we're so deep on YouTube, man. And I just want to say, I appreciate you guys being in here. I try to do my best to go into everybody's stream when I can, when I'm able. So to have it reciprocated, it means a lot. Real quick before we get going, make sure your microphone is plugged in. I mean, I don't know if because it sounds like your audio is not from your microphone.
Ooh, all right, let me check this out real quick. Yep, it's not. All right. All right, is it better now?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Now it's on my microphone.
You might want to turn it down just a tad, your gain.
All right, let me turn it down. All right, we should be good.
Perfect.
I think.
Perfect.
All right.
All
Perfect.
right.
Everybody can hear me now?
Everybody's good. Yeah, because I was like, man, his audio sounds kind of weird for him being on his microphone. One of the things that I think is huge going into this bye week is we had no new injuries reported in the game against the Rams, which when's the first time or the last time you ever heard that? And then we have a lot of returns coming. I don't have them in front of me here, but we have everybody besides Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, and maybe Emmanuel Mosley. That's how many people are coming back. I mean, those 3 guys are huge that are missing. The Emmanuel Mosley one is the most concerning to me, just because when we had him, we were a completely different defense. One of the returns that I'm looking forward to is, of course, Jason Verrett. Problem with him is what kind of injury he's coming off of, and you want him to be ready as all can be. We remember how he looked in 2019 when he came in against the Steelers. Yep. Wasn't quite his normal self, just not a good player at that point. Coming off of injury and stuff. And it was just, I think the Niners are really trying to avoid kind of a replay of that situation. But there's a couple holes on this team. One of them being defensive tackle and corner, but we are getting a good amount of people back. I know we're getting Jordan Willis back, possibly Azeez Al-Shaair, possibly Dre Greenlaw. So there's a lot of hope right now. If you would have asked 49er fans before the last game, a lot of us would have had no hope, including myself. I was that negative.
Yep.
Fast forward 7 days, we play the Rams, we beat them down, we don't have any injuries, and now all of a sudden everybody's spirits are high again. So, and even 49ers throwback even said Elijah Mitchell too. So, I mean, there's just a lot coming. There's just a lot coming for us that's in a positive light. So I guess my question to you is, who are you most excited possibly to get back? And are you excited that the Niners will be close to full strength as they've been at any time this season?
Of course, I'm definitely excited. I mean, one guy in particular would be Elijah Mitchell, right? Obviously, before the CMC trade, he went down week one. So that was one of those people that we had high expectations for coming into the season. And then he gets hurt, and then we trade for CMC. So obviously, I was excited to see him. But now that we have CMC, I want to see how much Elijah Mitchell gets involved. I want to see how much of a role he'll have in his offense, how many carries he might potentially get. But I'm really looking forward to seeing, guys like Armstead and potentially Kinlaw coming back, because that defensive tackle spot, a lot of teams were able to run the football on us the last couple of weeks. You look at that
Mm-hmm.
Falcons game; they were able to pound the football on us. It was not like they were getting 5 yards per carry or 4 yards per carry. They just kept pounding the football down our throat, and we had no answer for it. So getting guys like Eric Armstead and Kinlaw back, I think, will be huge. So the two guys that I think I'm really excited and want to hopefully have them back would be Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw. And it's so great. I mean, you kind of touched on it, but when was the last time we saw a Niners game or day after where there's nobody on the injury report? Like, that doesn't happen. Like, it's
It's
been
been
a long,
years.
long time. It's been years. Exactly. And like, I was on the show with Jay in the Bay, who was in the chat, and we were talking about it, and we were like, what was a big positive from the game? And we were like, no injuries on the injury report. And Jay was like, wait, there might be one tomorrow on Monday. And then Kyle Shanahan comes to practice, and he does his press conference, and he's like, no injuries to report. Which I'm like, wow, like, it's been a long damn time since that's happened. So definitely, good thing there. And it's definitely great to have your guys back. Now, one position I think that I'm still a little bit worried about is corner, because I don't know how well Jason Verrett will he be. Is he going to be shaky? Is he going to be Pro Bowl Jason Verrett? Who knows what Jason Verrett will get back? And the loss of Mosley, I mean, the loss of Mosley was huge for this Niners team.
Oh yeah.
The loss of Mosley was huge because a lot of these games, the first couple of weeks, the secondary was looking better than the defensive line. Like, the secondary was looking better than the defensive line in that Seattle game, in that Chicago game. Like, the secondary was doing their thing, and it started with Travarius Ward, with Emmanuel Mosley. They were literally shutting down guys like DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. They were doing their thing, and now you lose Emmanuel Mosley, and you have Jason Verrett's coming off the torn ACL. Pre-Emmanuel Mosley injury, you didn't have to rush Jason Verrett back.
Nope.
Because Jason Verrett, we don't know how well he would be. You didn't have to rush him back because Emmanuel Mosley was doing his thing. And comparatively to the last couple of seasons where Jason Verrett was your number one corner, this year Jason Verrett wasn't your number one corner. You signed Charvarius Ward. Emmanuel Mosley was doing his job really, really well and playing at a high level. Now, with Mosley getting hurt, I mean, Diamond Lenore he's been okay, but Ambry Thomas, I don't know. Did he get a couple of snaps yet last game? I think he did.
I heard he was in there.
I think he was in
I am
there.
not an Ambry fan,
I'm
to
not
be
an
honest
Ambry
with
fan either, right? But now you kind of have to rush Jason Verrett back in there a little bit. Now it's kind of a little bit more of a thing where you're trying to get Jason Verrett back. And I don't know what Jason Verrett you're gonna get. Are you gonna get Jason Verrett coming off their torn ACL against Pittsburgh, or are you gonna get Pro Bowl Jason Verrett who's playing at a high level? So that cornerback position is still one that I'm a little bit concerned about. I don't know what Jason Verrett will get. Coming off, I think, his second torn ACL. But there's a lot of optimism. There's a lot of optimism. There should be a lot of optimism because you're getting, our Eric Armstead back, Javon Kinlaw back, and you're getting your guys back. So there should be a lot of optimism. And like we said before in the beginning of the stream, this Niners team can definitely make a second half run. And it definitely helps to get your players back, your key players back, if in order to make that potential run. So definitely looking forward to having some of those guys back on the field.
With Verrett, I mean, the Niners could technically platoon him, not have him in there all the time. You could platoon him and Diamador Lenore in some sort of, rotation, kind of get his feet wet slowly instead of throwing him in and saying, okay, you're our starter. Demo's the backup, and just go from there. I think that would be foolhardy. I feel like kind of what they're doing with Spencer Burford this year with the little platooning they're doing with him and Brunskill. They're trying to bring him along slowly, but at the same time expose him to a lot of things.
Yep.
The Niners could do that. I'm not saying that they have to platoon because of inexperience. I would like to save Verrett for the home stretch if we indeed have it in us to have a home stretch. to make it to the playoffs. So yeah, definitely like the fact that we're getting a lot of guys back. My one fear is coming out flat against the Chargers Sunday night. It seems to happen all the time with bye weeks. Teams go into the bye week looking like world beaters, and they come off the bye week and they're flat. So a couple things I'm looking for is come out hard, hit it fast, try to score, get up. Because I feel like the Niners, what you saw against the Rams, both sides of the ball helped each other. They played complementary ball. The Niners scored when they had it, which allowed the defense, when the Niners had those drives, to rest. And then, the Niners were up multiple scores. So what are the Rams doing? They're going to throw the ball. What do the Niners do really, really good? Well, they rush the passer. So the Niners have to play that sort of two-sided deal. And I think if they do, I think they'll have a really good shot at beating the Chargers and a lot of these teams coming down the stretch. I want to hit on these real quick. 49ers Throwback says that Ambry Thomas is a bust, in my opinion. Year 3, he's supposed to make the jump. Year 3, he's supposed to make the jump. Year 2, get better, and he hasn't. Yeah, I haven't seen. From what a lot of people were saying, Throwback, he had a really bad camp. Like, he was, anytime you saw like a big highlight of somebody getting toasted, he was the guy who was on the other end of that highlight.
I mean, not even training camp, but I mean, it was happening last year, right? Let's say Ambry Thomas didn't have the interception against the Rams, like people would not want Ambry on this team. Like Ambry Thomas, if he didn't have the interception, which I can't say, I don't want to go into what ifs, but he had that one nice interception. But I mean, there was games last year, like, I mean, particularly one that I remember on top of my head was against Atlanta, and they just kept targeting Ambry Thomas over and over and over and over again. And it's not like he would get beat. He just couldn't, when the ball was up in the air, he just couldn't, position himself to make a play on the ball or to knock it out or whatever. And Russell Gage just torching, not torching, but just, reception after reception. And they kept moving the ball down the field. So Ambry Thomas, I mean, he just hasn't been all that. He hasn't been all that. And even in training camp this year, he really hasn't, from like you mentioned, and like the training camp reports, he hasn't been great. So I don't know what the future status of Ambry will be. I don't know if he's going to be on the team next year. There's a lot of question marks with Ambry Thomas.
There's another question mark we got here. 49ers Throwback is asking me, Aaron, do you think McGlinchey comes back next season? I'm going to tell you something. None of us in this chat or in this panel right now want McGlinchey back. But if you listen to the latest interview with John Lynch is saying he is playing great. We're really happy with his performance this year. So either John Lynch is being the ultimate politician like he is, saying all the right things, or we're just we're really going to see him again next year. I really hope we don't. I feel like we could move Spencer Burford over. Some people are saying even move over, maybe a McKivitz or what the hell is his name? Who owns Aaron Donald?
Brunskill.
I always forget. Brunskill. Yeah, some sort of combination of that. I mean, the Niners, they have Bosa. They're going to be paying Bosa this offseason, so it's you can't overpay everywhere. So it'll be interesting to see if they do something with that, or if they stay pat and bring him back another year. Ty Olson says that me and you are the best duo since Batman and Robin.
That's some high praise.
That's freaking great. I appreciate that.
High praise. I appreciate that. I really do. Like, that's some really high praise. Batman and Robin. Like,
Jay in the base says, hit that like button, faithful. Yeah, I would appreciate it. Thank you. It helps YouTube find me, guys. I appreciate it if you could. You don't have to, but it would be nice. No. Real quick, Jagueo. Oh, man, I'm really bad with pronunciations. I'll just call you Jag. With the $2 super, he says, if Armstead and Verrett play, who will play more? I would say Armstead. I think Verrett, like I said before, Jag, you want to bring him in a little slowly. Yeah. I would platoon him if you could. Let's see here. I know Jay said something about the secondary. I'm trying to find it.
He said secondary is a liability, I think.
He says the secondary is a liability without Mosley. It can be at times. I agree.
Yep.
It's amazing how quickly that changed, Jay. Like, they went from being blanket coverage where like Amin said, the secondary was actually outplaying the D line. As soon as he goes down, it was like, wow. Like, it was a completely different it just felt completely different because now it's like, oh, if Charvarius Ward gets hurt, now what? You know?
You're screwed. If Charvarius Ward gets hurt, you're screwed. And
Ki-
I remember coming out of that week 2 game against Seattle, and like I kind of mentioned like how the secondary was playing so lights out, and I was like, if this team can stay healthy and we can make it to the playoffs, right? Which is all Niners fans expected us after beating Seattle. Like we had high hopes that we make the playoffs. If we can stay healthy, if the secondary is just doing what they've been doing the whole year, and the defensive line can just play a little bit better, I mean, this team is set, right? Like the defense is going to be ridiculous if
I
this
think
team can stay
everybody,
healthy.
I think everybody had that mindset.
Yeah, Mosley stays healthy. Charvarius Ward has been doing his thing. He got an interception again in that Seattle game. Emmanuel Mosley was locking down DK Metcalf for the most part. And the secondary, like I mentioned, the secondary was balling out. Like the secondary, like we talked about the past couple seasons about, oh, they need to fix this secondary. They have to address this secondary. The secondary isn't great. The defensive line, they do their thing, but the secondary hasn't been great. And then this year, especially early on, we were talking about the secondary of how great they were. And now that Mosey got hurt, I mean, it's been tough. It's been tough. And I mean, you look at that Kansas City game. I mean, a lot when you play these tough, really good football teams, the secondary will and can be a liability at times without Mosley being in there. And even Charvarius Ward, I think he got beat a couple of times in the Kansas City game. He definitely didn't have his greatest game against Kansas City, but now with the loss of Mosley against some of these really good teams, pass first offenses, Sunday night against the Chargers, for example, they're going to be throwing the football 30 to 35 times, if not more, with Herbert. So it'll be a real test for the secondary, and the loss of Mosley definitely will hurt them in the long run.
49er minded and Ty Alston both made a good point about Lenore playing well. The biggest compliment you can get is when people don't talk about you. They say, right? If you're playing good enough and you're not getting beat consistently, that's the best. That's the best compliment. So yeah, we haven't heard a lot of like, oh man, Lenore's getting roasted out here. So yeah, he's played well. Like I said, it would be really awesome if we had Verrett come back and he could play some meaningful snaps, maybe the last, four games of the season where you can start to platoon possibly and just have that extra guy. So if you have to go against teams with multiple good receivers, you can match up across the board. The one thing that the Niners did in the second half against the Lions is they went to primarily man-to-man. They were playing a soft zone in the first half, and they were getting picked apart. From what I gather, they were playing a soft zone against Kansas City, too. So soft zones, you allow the quarterback to have, you allow for a quarterback who doesn't have patience to throw you something, right? Whereas in man-to-man, it's about the DB beating the guy in front of him. So the Niners actually looked really good when they went into that. And if you look at the statistics, I don't have them in front of me, but the first half statistics with Stafford compared to the second half when the Niners rolled up on their receivers man-to-man was a completely different thing. I think really good quarterbacks, if your rush isn't getting home, they will carve zone coverage up, especially if it's like a really soft zone where like you're allowing a team to drive because you feel like, oh, they'll make a mistake eventually. Good quarterbacks don't make mistakes against zone coverage. So be interesting to see if the Niners play more man coverage down the stretch. If you had to have a first half MVP or MVPs, who would they be? I'll let you go first and then I'll give you mine.
Oh man, this is tough. I mean, the obvious answer probably be on defense would be Talanoa Hufanga.
Okay.
I mean, it kind of slowed down a little bit, but he had that pick. I think he had that pick against Kansas City. He's made some plays. Now, sometimes he does miss tackles, but to be fair, everybody misses tackles on the Niners, so I can't really be like, oh, it's only you, Hufanga. I mean, Fred Warner misses tackles at times.
Yep.
Dre Greenlaw misses tackles at times. I mean, everybody, it feels like on the Niners defense misses tackles occasionally. So can't really blame Hufanga for that, but Hufanga would probably be my MVP so far. And then offensively, I'll give it to a guy that doesn't get talked a lot around the league, but Niners fans know him well, is Brandon Ayuk. He hasn't really had, a really, top 5 or top 10 wide receiver season, but he's been really good for the Niners. He's been really good. The route running has been great. He's getting more involved. He got more involved in the second half against the Rams, and I mean, he's just been doing his thing this year. He's arguably had a better year than Debo, in my opinion. I think he had a better year than Debo so far.
Yeah,
Now, Debo,
Debo's been a little slow this year.
Debo's been a little slow this year, but to be fair, I will say this about Debo. Last year, what they were doing with Debo was new to the league, right? Kind of like Lamar Jackson, right? Lamar Jackson, even though there's been Michael Vick before Lamar, the Ravens offense when Lamar was MVP. I mean, Lamar was cooking everybody, and part of that was Lamar and his skill set, and teams weren't really prepared for that, or
Nope.
it was kind of new. But then what happened the year after? Now Lamar kind of dealt with injuries, but teams kind of game plan for that. Team was like, all right, like we have to figure out a way to stop Lamar and limit Lamar as much as we can, keep him in the pocket, and teams started doing a better job of that. Same thing kind of with Debo Samuel. With Debo Samuel, last year it was like, whoa, they're using him as a running back? Like, whoa. It was new, and Kyle Shanahan was able to create mismatches where Debo would be going up against linebackers, and Debo would straight up burn linebackers because he's
Mhm.
just faster and, the skill set of Debo. But this year, teams kind of know. Like, if I was week one, if I was the Bears, I would be like, all right, what can we do to stop Debo Samuel? It wouldn't be, Ayuk wasn't really, popping off last year, or Kittle wasn't really popping off last year. It was mainly Debo Samuel in the backfield. So teams this year are kind of more prepared or more aware because they have a whole year of footage from last year on how to, try to limit Debo Samuel as much as they can. So Debo really hasn't been having as great of a season. And I mean, it's kind of expected because now teams know, teams kind of like have more film on Debo and his, how Kyle Shanahan uses him in the backfield, and teams are just more prepared for that. So Debo, I don't think he's gonna have as good of a season. Now he's dealing with injuries, but he's not gonna have as productive of a season as he had last year. And he definitely has started off slow compared to last year. And I mean, even last year, I think he started off slow last year, and then he kind of bounced back in that second half and had a phenomenal second half. But Debo's definitely has been off to a slow start. And then, yeah, on defense, I would say Hufanga. Banks has been really good. I agree.
Mhm.
Banks has been really good. Burford has been solid. I think Burford sometimes makes his mistakes, but I think Burford has also been solid. But here's something I learned about the Niners, right? Is that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, as much as we like to criticize them, and as much as they are deserving of criticism at times, and I just want to point out, if anybody in the chat, my voice is a little bit weird. I just coming off a cold and have a little bit of a sore throat, so my voice is a little bit weird. That's the reason. But one thing I've realized about Shanahan and Lynch is that, like, we criticized Aaron Banks last year. Like numerous times, fans, including myself. I was like, "Yo, Aaron Banks, healthy scratch. He's a second round pick. Like, what
Same.
is going on?" Right?
We're not the only ones. I think pretty
Right?
much anybody in the media or
Yeah.
content creating was like, "What
Yeah.
is up with Banks? What a
What is up with
bust!"
Banks? He's a healthy scratch. What is up with Banks? And even in training camp and last year, you were hearing times about Banks getting beat, and he would straight up get bull rush, and he would get beat on one-on-ones. And Kyle Shanahan were like, should we go and get Isaiah Wynn? Should we go and make a trade? What should happen? And he's been really good for us this year. And
Yeah,
even the loss of Lakin, I mean, we were like, you're letting go of Lakin Tomlinson. You have a rookie, you have a second-year quarterback in Trey Lance, and you're letting go of a guy who's not phenomenal, who's not an all-pro at his position,
he's
but
just
who's
always
able to put,
healthy.
but he's always healthy. He's always ready to go, and you're starting this guy who was a healthy scratch for you majority of the year. Like, really? And he was really good for us. He's been really good for us this year. Same thing with Burford. I mean, we were worried about Burford. There was concerns about Burford. How well will he be? There were concerns about Brendel. Now, yes, at times have they been inconsistent and have they shown, some mistakes,
Inexperience. Yeah,
inexperience, some mistakes, but for the most part, they've been really solid. And in that aspect, I feel like, yes, should we criticize John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan at times, and are they deserving of it? Yes.
absolutely.
But at the same time, I feel like we should a little bit more trust Shanahan and Lynch in certain areas because I was doubtful of Banks, I was doubtful of Burford, but for the most part, those guys have been really, really surprising this year, and they've been really solid. And Banks, PFF wise, has gotten a better grade than Lakin Tomlinson this year. So Banks and I mean, this whole offensive line. I mean, props to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch because they've been doing their thing, and I won't deny it. I criticized them last year. I was like, is Banks really the guy? Is he gonna be a bust? What's gonna happen? And for the most part, they've been really solid. So at particular moments, I feel like we should trust Shanahan and Lynch more in certain occasions.
I agree. Jag says C Ward, Shavarius Ward on defense, Banks on offense. First of all, thank you for the $2 super chat. For me, I agree on both Shavarius Ward and Banks, but if I had to go guys that for me are consistent game in and game out on defense, for me, I know this is going to be a lazy pick, but I'm going with Bosa, game in and game out, just for what he does and what kind of havoc he causes and what he causes offenses to do, where they even have to run plays that take his aggressiveness into account, like the Chiefs. The Chiefs knew how much of a pain in the butt he was, so they literally ran plays to counter his aggressiveness. So on defense, for me, it would be Bosa. On offense for the 49ers, I would say Brandon Ayuk. He's been ascending all season. Yeah. He hasn't plateaued. He hasn't gone down. He's been ascending. To me, it's more about the quarterback and his consistency in getting the ball to him. I know they've been running a lot of in-crossing routes, as they call it, with him because he's strong at that particular part of his game. And when teams started to kind of key on CMC in that game in the second half, I noticed they were starting to run a lot of plays, and he was starting to get a lot of good one-on-one catches where he was beating the defender pretty consistently. So those are my two. I agree on the Aaron Banks. Real interesting point that Ty Alston made that I said last year about Aaron Banks. I said the same thing. He wasn't in shape. He looked chubby. He looked like he was in college shape and not. I haven't been in a pro weight room with the strength and conditioning staff for a full couple of years. And he looks completely different. He transformed his body. He looked like a chubby kid. Now he looks more like a grown-ass man. So Ty Alston says Banks wasn't in NFL shape, too heavy. They had him play right guard, just bad all around. Yeah, he wasn't good last year, and I'm glad. That's the key, and that's that's when you know a player is buying all in, is when they're going to take care of their body in the offseason, do what they have to do in order to get themselves in better shape, get themselves in high enough shape where they don't get injured, where they have wind throughout a game, just doing stuff on a day in and day out basis. I was listening to an interview with Brandon Ayuk about, being in shape and doing stuff in the off season. He's just, it's every day, man. You got to get your body ready to play a full 17 games. And I think it takes a little bit for some of these players. I think some of these players hit a wall. I think some of these players don't know how to be in an NFL weight room. And it takes them a little bit physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever you want to. And I think that you're seeing, especially with a guy like Banks, that his maturation, he's been one of the best players on an offensive line. The ones that we should be worried about are Trent Williams, in and out of the lineup, hurt, playing a little bit sloppy at times, but he's still the man. And then, of course, McGlinchey, who's absolutely horrendous. But according to John Lynch, I guess he's the greatest right tackle in the league. So I don't know, man. Yeah. Ayuk, Bosa. Ayuk has been, to me, it's been great to see his ascent. And it's sad that we can't see it with Trey Lance, because that was what everybody was looking forward to. But listen, man, I'll give Jimmy his props. He had a good game against the Rams. The offense looked as good as it's been in a really long time. So if that's what we're going to get from the second half on, I'll sign up for it. But yeah, those are my two dudes. He says, was Banks one of the guys who worked out with Trent Williams in the offseason?
He was. I think he might have been.
Was it him or Burford? I forget which one.
I know Burford was. I don't know if Banks particularly worked out, but I remember watching a Trent Williams interview, and he said he was working out with a couple of the Niners guys. And I think he was in Texas. So I think he was working out with some of the Niners guys. So I don't know if
you're going to learn from anybody, he's like
yeah.
the giant tree of knowledge. You just sit under that tree and you just listen and you don't talk. You know what I mean? Take everything you can from that person. And Aaron loves saying Burford. Yeah, just a little bit. Well, I heard okay, listen, here's the whole story on the Burford deal. When he first was coming out in the draft, a lot of people were making videos, and almost all of them were mispronouncing him and calling him Buford.
I'll be honest.
Okay.
I was guilty of that. I was like training camp day one, Spencer Buford, and then I was like,
And so I
yeah,
listened to enough people on the radio, and I'm like, okay, everybody's destroying this guy's name. I freely admit that I have a hard time pronouncing certain names, but I mean, it was so bad, and I was just like getting really my OCD was kicking in. I'm like, it's not Buford, it's Burford, and I put Burrr like Burford, and then like everyone was like, dude, relax, not that big of a deal. I'm like, it is to me. So, excuse me. In front of me, I have the second half schedule. It's pretty winnable. So I'm going to go game by game with you, and I'm pretty much just going to ask you win or loss, and we're going to see where we're at. So right now we're at 4-4. See, he gets it. Burford. Right now we're
I'm
at
just gonna call him Spencer Burford.
Burford. Yeah, it's not even Burford. It's Burford. You can pronounce Chuck Ravarthi. I took Rohan's last name and I broke it down like we used to do in school. Because a lot of Indian last names are hard for me to pronounce.
They are. Some Indian names are really hard to pronounce.
There's another guy who is I think he's of Indian descent. He is he was on the radio the other night. I know you guys know who I'm talking about. He's got a similar last name to Rohan, and I, for the life of me, cannot pronounce his last name. I forget what his name is. I'm sure you guys know him on Twitter. I think he covers the 49ers, or he's he writes for all 49er SI, one of those things. But he's got another difficult last name too. But I don't even know Mean's last name. I just know him as Amin, and I think I will leave it at that. But here I got the schedule in front of me. So, what's up, Brian Colt? I don't know if you've been in here before, but
Akash. I think it's like Akash Anavaratan or something like that.
Anavarathan or something like that.
Anavaratan, something like that. I know. I'm probably butchering it as well, and I'm Indian, so like he's probably like, if he ever sees this, he's probably like, that's disgraceful.
I always tell people that I know. It's like, man, I'm good friends with a lot of like young, smart Indian guys, and they all have really hard last names, so I just know them by their first names. Because I don't want to take it and just completely tear it up.
Vishar, just for the chat, Amin's last name is the Dream.
Hey, yeah, your last name is the Dream, of course. See, that's awesome though. So I'm gonna go week 10. We play Sunday Night Football against the Chargers. Win or loss? You can give me a little bit of background on it if you want.
I'm mixed on this. Honestly, I'm mixed on it because this is a game that the Niners could win. This is a game that the Niners could also lose. And I mean, you could say that for every game, but this is a toss-up for me.
Is it a toss-up?
It's a toss-up.
Kind of for me too, because I think the Niners could come out flat.
The Niners could come out flat coming off the bye week. Another thing is, how many times have we seen it in the past? Where even going back to last year, the Niners have a horrible game. Then they go and play the Rams. They dominate the Rams. And then everything's great again.
Jesse said it on Twitter. He's like, we're going to beat the Rams, and they're going to reel us back in.
And then they're going to reel us back in, and then we have another game, and then we get killed, and the defense is garbage, or offense is struggling.
And we're all depressed, and we're all I'm so ridiculous on Twitter during games.
Fire Shanahan, fire Lynch, fire everybody. Jed's stupid. Like, all that stuff is going to start again.
It happens all the time, and we're all guilty of it.
It happens all the time. I'm 50-50 on it. If the offense can come out strong, Jimmy Garoppolo can have a good game. He can have a turnover-less game. And the defense, hopefully, Armstead is back and we can just do our job properly and play good on all three phases of the ball. I think we can win. It just depends on how well the defense comes out and plays. If they're able to limit Justin Herbert and that Chargers offense, which has a bunch of playmakers. And then offensively, can you keep up with the Niners? So, I mean, can you keep up with the Chargers offensively if the defense does struggle and have not as good of a game? So we'll see what happens, but I'm 50-50 on it. I honestly, if I had to lean one side, I would probably say the Chargers. They're playing a game this week. They'll potentially have Keenan Allen back against the Niners, and then Niners are coming off a bye week. Obviously, they'll get their players back, but will they come out ready to go, or will they come out flat and not have anything, not be ready to go? So we'll see what happens.
I'm gonna go win.
All right.
But the Niners are going to come out slow, and the Chargers are going to go up early. It's going to be a little bit like the Rams game, but I don't think the Niners are going to wait half as long. I think the first quarter, the Niners will be a little sloppy in completions, giving up some plays on defense. I say they fall into like a 10-9 nothing hole, and then they kind of turn it up. They have a nice long drive, score, take back the momentum, and then it could be a really close game. I'm thinking if the Niners beat the Chargers, I'm saying it's like a 27-24 game. The Niners hold on late, but I don't think that we could also lose in the same fashion. You're right.
We can lose the same fashion.
It's really hard, but I'm going to go win just because I'm trying to be optimistic. And part of it has to do with who's going to be on who's hurt for the Chargers and who's playing. So, we'll see that. Real quick on this thread that he posted, Jesse. It was cut. It was start, bench, cut, and I agree with 49er minded. I would start Rice. I would bench.
This is the only right answer. This is literally the only right answer. They made this, I think it was like on PFF or whatever it was.
I'm never going to pick against my dude Rice.
Yes,
I mean, he's the greatest of all time.
He's the GOAT. Moss is obviously second. You're not cutting right. You're not cutting Moss. But the one issue that I had with it is you're putting Chris Carter up there.
I mean, he was really good for a while.
He was really good, but he's not like I would say Terrell Owens. I would rather have Terrell Owens over
Terrell Owens,
Carter.
Yep.
I would rather have Calvin Johnson over Chris
Calvin
Carter.
Johnson, yep.
Like there's guys that I would say are better than Chris Carter. So like I get it, you might want to put like an old legend up in there, but I would rather what would make it interesting would either be Rice, Moss, and then either Calvin Johnson or T.O. That would be an interesting one.
Week 11, Mexico City, Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to say right now, I have us winning that game.
Mexico City, I think we get the win also.
Well, I think the Niners have a heavy, Mexican Hispanic fan base as a team. Yep. So I don't know if that has anything to do with anything. I just think the 49ers are a better team than the Cardinals. It's weird, man. I'm confident, but I keep thinking about this first half Niners team and how inconsistent they've been. I'm like, who's going to show up? They have me completely buying in after that Rams win that I'm thinking, well, we got this. So we'll see. So
I'll be honest, this Cardinals game, in the back of my mind, I was thinking L, but I'm not gonna sit up here and be like L. You know,
you're being realistic because you're being true to what the Niners have been this year. It's like I could go L on L on every single game.
Yeah, I don't want to go L on every single game. I think they are better than certain teams, but like games like this, where I'm like, oh my goodness, the Niners could come out and they could dominate this game, or the Niners could come out and just completely get killed, and the Cardinals are,
like completely screw the pooch and crap the bed.
And Kyler Murray's running all over them. He's throwing touchdowns to D-Hop. Like, it's so inconsistent with the Niners.
See, that would be a perfect game to bring back Barrett because he's a D-Hop killer. Week 12, New Orleans Saints. I have win. What about you?
I have win against the Saints. Okay.
Here's my first L. Week 13 against my brother's team, the Miami Dolphins. I say we lose that game. It's going to be close. I think we both score, but I'm going to think we're going to have a hard time stopping those receivers that they have. They have really good downfield threats.
They have ridiculous receivers.
They have Tyreek Hill.
Waddle.
They have Jason Waddle. And
Jalen Waddle.
Did I call him Jason Waddle? Yeah, it's Jalen Waddle.
Yeah. You're getting
on defense,
Aponte and Waddle.
I was thinking of Aponte. He could be a wide receiver. He's really tall. And skinny. I just think Miami knows us really well because their coach freaking was with Kyle Shanahan for a really long time. I mean, we could both be totally wrong, but I just think the Niners lose this game. I don't think the Niners get the doors blown off of them like we did a couple years ago when we had Brian Allen at corner. I don't think this will be like a 20-point loss or anything, or a 30-point loss. This won't be like a Kansas City game, but I think the Niners just have a hard time with that. So far, you have the Niners at 3-1.
3-1.
After the bye so far, I have them at 4-0 or 3-1 as well. But
I didn't say the Dolphins game though, so I don't know if I went 3-1.
What is your pick against the Dolphins?
Mike McDaniel knows this offense, so yes, I could see the Dolphins winning, but I could also see Kyle Shanahan saying, "I'm still the older brother. Yeah. I ain't gonna let you win," and then he comes out and has like a phenomenal performance. The offense is killing it.
Like the master class where like
it's kind of like McVay. It's kind of like McVay and like Shanahan, right? Where he's like, McVay, you were under me. I ain't gonna let you beat me. In the regular season. Kyle Shanahan pulls out all the tricks from his bag. Could be the same thing with McDaniel, right? Like McDaniel's been there for so long. He's having a good start to the season, and then Shanahan comes out and he's like, "I'm still the older brother. I ain't gonna let you, I ain't gonna let you win this. I'm gonna show you who's still the best and has a phenomenal game and has draws up a lot of great plays. The offense is executing well." But you made a great point. I mean, the Dolphins receivers are phenomenal. And if there's one game in the second half of the season where if I'm the corners, I should be worried, or if I would be worried about the secondary, would be against the Dolphins. Tyreek Hill, ridiculous.
That would be a game where you'd want to play some soft zone.
That would be the game where I would definitely be worried about the secondary, and I agree that's the game that I'll play soft zone. Because the secondary, if you go man-to-man...
if you go man-to-man, your guys are going to get...
You're probably going to get torched. Even Charvarius Ward might get torched. If you're going up against Tyreek in a man-to-man situation, as much as I love Charvarius Ward, I mean, even he has a possibility of getting torched in that game. So...
Throwback says, but McDaniels has the better QB.
Maybe.
That's true. We'll see, man. Like, it's hard. So you got the Niners. You're picking the Dolphins.
I'm picking the Dolphins. I think it'll be.
So we're both 3-1, but on different teams.
See, I already know. Like, there are going to be Niners fans that are going to watch this after, and they're going to be like, "Oh my goodness, he's picking against the Niners. Is he a Niners fan?" Like, but then when we come to that game, and if the Niners hypothetically lose, which obviously I'm not wanting that situation to happen.
Yeah, nobody wants them to lose. You got to be a real. You got to be a real human being,
right? We want them to win, but at the same time, I mean, it's been so inconsistent this year. It was inconsistent last year. The whole first half, and then we had that miraculous second half run. We hope the Niners can do that again. But
the Niners have really no excuse. They have guys coming back. They have health.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of talent. So really it comes down to just people executing or not executing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're 3-1 in those games. Week 14, we play the Bucks. I have us winning against Brady and the Bucks. Because I just think that I think the Bucks are done, man. I just don't think they have it this year. I think Brady mentally is not the same quarterback. And can you blame him? He's going through a divorce. It's not going to be a blowout. I think it'll be a close game.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to really be the Jimmy Garoppolo show. It's going to be more of the Niners pass rush getting after Brady and the Niners run game being able to run the ball in Tampa. Those are my two things. I know I sound like a kind of a homer right now, and they have no Shaq Barrett. Thank you, Throwback. So they're without their best pass rusher. What do you think?
I already know people aren't gonna like me for this. I'm gonna go in L. I think
You're gonna go L.
I think it's gonna be close, right? I think the Niners are gonna put up a fight. I'm just worried about Jimmy G. I'm really worried about Jimmy G. I think Brady has been struggling, but Brady and that team is gonna bounce back with the talent that they have on offense. Even though they have their offensive line is depleted with injuries, Brady probably is gonna bounce back. I know. Everybody's hating on me. I know. I don't want the Niners to lose.
East Coast red and gold is like, I mean,
yeah, I just
like, how dare you?
Right now. I'm just not optimistic right now.
Yeah, attack the old guy here. Don't go after the kid, okay?
I'm not optimistic right now. I really aren't. I'm not right now. Like that's the thing. There's a lot of games this year where the Niners could win, right? There's a lot of games where like the Tampa Bay game is 50-50. That Chargers game is 50-50. It's a toss-up. But I just don't know if they can get it done. I get it. We're on a high. I'm also on a high. We beat the Rams again for the 8th time in a row in a dominant fashion.
Bro, you could ask me after the game next Sunday and we lose, and I will be in a completely different mindset.
Exactly. You'll be like, the Niners are Super Bowl contenders. Like, they're not. Like,
we're going to make a run.
Yeah. It's like, I'm 50-50 on it, but I don't see them winning. I think it'll be close, but I'm just not optimistic against these teams right now.
Week 15 at the Seahawks. I have us losing.
Like, whoa. You said yes. You said yes to the Tampa Bay. You said yes to...
No, because I just think for some reason we play bad in Seattle.
That is true.
No matter who is playing, how bad Russ is playing, we find a way to screw ourselves. And I feel like it's going to be more of the same. I think it's going to be a Jimmy poo-poo game. I think the defense is going to somehow give up a huge play to like lock it or something. We just have problems beating Seattle in Seattle. We beat the brakes off of them at home. But it's
Yeah.
weird. It's a division foe. We see them all the time. They have a really good coach, regardless if we hate him. And I do hate him. I wish that errant ball would hit him in the side of the face so he would stop chewing gum forever. But unfortunately, I can't think like that. But yeah, I think we lose to Seattle. I think it's a close loss, but I just think we find a way to do something dumb and come up short.
It's really tough. We do struggle in Seattle. Going back to last year, there was that fake punt and they take it all the way for the touchdown. We always just screw up against Seattle. Jimmy Garoppolo throws interceptions to linebackers directly to linebackers.
I mean, they don't have what's his name anymore. In
They don't have
linebacking.
Wagner, but it just for whatever reason in Seattle,
He'll find somebody else to hit
it's
right
all
in the chest.
quarterbacks. It was Nick Mullins. He threw interceptions to linebackers. Jimmy Garoppolo. A lot of those were Bobby Wagner, but who knows? We do struggle in Seattle, but I think the way that I projected the season, the way that I'm picking these games, I think you have to have a bounce back game against Seattle. So I think it might be closer than a lot of people expect, but I'm going W against the Seattle Seahawks. Finally, I picked a W. I know I picked a W, so I think they get it done against Seattle. I think it'll be tough. We do struggle against Seattle in Seattle, but I think we get the W.
Week 16, Washington Commanders. I have us winning. I don't think Washington's very good. I am a Heineke guy. I do like Heineke. I do like McLaurin. I wonder, is there pass rush extraordinaire back this year in Washington? I know they had a pretty good defensive line. You guys know what I'm talking about. I can't think of his name right now.
Chase Young.
Chase Young, yeah, he came out. I think we beat them. I just don't think they do anything extremely well. I think they're a well-coached team, and I think they play hard. I just think talent-wise, I just don't think they have enough to beat us. Chase Young, thank you. So I'm going to go win against the Commanders week 16. And a lot of these are home games, guys. A lot of these are home games. They're not counting the New Mexico game. Yeah. I think we have 5 home games down the stretch.
Yep. I agree with Ty. Washington is a game where you're favored to win on paper. It's a favorable matchup. You're expected to win, but if the Niners shoot themselves in the foot, Taylor Heineke can make you pay. Heineke,
yeah, he's not a bad quarterback. He's not a great quarterback, but he's
better
good
than
enough.
Wentz this year.
Yeah.
Under 2 games, they literally won 2 back-to-back games. They beat the Colts last week, and then they beat the Packers, who've been struggling as of late. But Heineke isn't better than Wentz this year. Now, to be fair, he's been in the system longer, but he's definitely been better.
Going on David McNew.
I expect that. I expect them to beat the Washington football team, the Commanders, because they're a much better football team than them. But if the Niners bite themselves in the foot and kind of do what they did against the Bears, this could get ugly real fast, and then the Washington Commanders could pull off the upset. But I do expect the Niners to get a win in this one.
All right, so we both agree on that. Week 17, the Raiders. I have us winning that game as well.
I do too. I think it'll be a good fight, but I think we have to beat the Raiders. I think at that point of the season,
I think it's just come down to the coaching. I think Shanahan's a better coach than McDaniel.
And McDaniel's been atrocious with
outside of working with his master, Palpatine from Star Wars. When he's been on his own, when he's been a solo Sith Lord, he's done absolute trash. Me and my brother were like, man, he is just straight garbage.
So Josh McDaniel's kind of like Kylo Ren then.
Yeah, they go run back to him after, like, I can't do good by myself. Let's go hide on his staff. Everybody goes and hides under his staff after they, blow their wad by themselves. It's funny. When the 49ers are really good, and I know anybody who's in this chat who's old like me, all the old heads, Walsh and all those guys that left, whether it was Dennis Green going to Minnesota, whether it was in Green Bay with coach, the coach in Green Bay. Come on, guys, help me out. He was the 49ers quarterback coach.
Oh, Mike McCarthy.
No, not Mike McCarthy. It was
Mike Nolan.
No, not Mike Nolan. Come on, guys. Come on, chat. Help me out. The old school Packers coach that they won a Super Bowl with. Him and Brett Favre were like synonymous with each other. Please, somebody in the chat, help me. Help me. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Come on, guys. Help me. Who is the guy?
Mike
Holmgren. Thank
Mike
you.
Holmgren. Yeah.
Oh, see, I'm old, guys. That we got. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Oh man, wow.
I literally just Googled it.
All right, guys. So yeah, I just think that he's a bad coach, and I think the Niners have better players. And I hate to say this, but I'd rather have Jimmy Garoppolo than Carr. I've never seen
You'd
one
rather have
franchise.
Jimmy G than Carr?
Yes.
Wait a dag minute.
What has Carr done? What has Carr done?
You're gonna make me defend a Raiders player on the internet right now?
Wait, to me, he's just a slightly more talented version. I don't know.
I mean, he's not. That's the thing. They're not. They're
I
both.
disagree, Aaron.
See, that's the thing. Carr is good.
I know he's good. I'm hating on the Raiders.
Jimmy, right?
I hate the Raiders.
He's better than Jimmy. I hate the Raiders also, and I don't know why I'm defending a Raiders player. It's like
The
Stephen A. defending a
Raiders.
Cowboys player. I don't like the Raiders. I've hated the Raiders since I was young. That's as Seahawks and the Raiders. Those are my two teams I just can't stand. Right?
Yeah.
But Carr is good. The thing about Carr is that I'd rather have Carr over Jimmy Garoppolo any day of the week.
Okay.
That's just simply me. The thing that I feel like Carr gets a bad knock is that Carr is a good quarterback. He's just not better than the other quarterbacks in the NFC West.
Yep.
He's not Russell Wilson good. He's not Justin Herbert good. He's not Patrick Mahomes good. I would rather have any of those three quarterbacks than have Derek Carr on my team.
Right.
Right?
No,
right.
I can get down with that.
So here's the way I would look at it. Derek Carr would probably be a B tier quarterback or a B minus tier quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo is like a C tier quarterback who has good games and has good stretches that can also cost you the game, and in playoff moments and in playoff games he's just sometimes just horrible. So Derek Carr,
Jimmy's a horrible playoff quarterback. Absolutely atrocious.
So Derek Carr, I think I would definitely have him over Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Derek Carr is more than capable, and when needed, he does make plays sometimes. Is he phenomenal? Is he on Mahomes' level or on, is he an A-tier quarterback? No.
Nobody's on Mahomes and Allen's
level. On Mahomes level, but is he an A-tier quarterback? No, I don't think he's an A-tier quarterback.
Okay.
But is he in the B tier, B minus tier? I think so.
All right. Last one. Week 18 against the Cardinals. I have us winning.
Yep. I think we get it done.
I think we just finished them off this year. So let me look at this. I have the Niners going 1, 2, 3.
Be honest. Wow, East Coast. What's up with ECG? When I pick
I have the Niners going 6-2 down the stretch.
Okay, what did I have?
That means the Niners finish 11-6, and they win the West.
What did I have?
I think you have the same. You had us losing to
11-6. I think I went maybe 10-7. Maybe I don't know if I went 11.
You had us losing to the I think you had us losing to the Chargers.
Chargers L.
You have us beating the Cardinals and the Saints.
L
you have us losing to the Miami Dolphins too, right?
Yep.
So that's 2-2 so far. You said we lose to the Bucks. Am I right?
Yep. 2-3.
So 2-3. You said we beat Seattle.
Yep.
So that's 3-3. You have us beating the Commanders, the Raiders, and the Cardinals. So you have us finishing 10-7. Either way, if we win the division, guys, it doesn't really matter. We're not going to be the number one seed.
Just gotta be better than the Sea Chickens. That's it.
We're not going to be the number one seed because they're 4 games ahead. The Niners really, they don't even focus on the number one seed. Focus on
just winning the division.
Win your division and you're in the playoffs, you get a home game. And then whatever happens to the big teams, who cares?
In order, really, this season, in order to make the playoffs, you really have to win the division. It's crucial. It's really crucial because, yes, the Niners can make the playoffs even if they don't win the division. Yes. But it's going to be hard. I mean, Dallas is, 6-2 right now?
Yeah.
The Giants are 6-2 right now.
I think we could beat... Well, with us being healthy, if it was a home game for us, I think we could beat Dallas again. I think Philly would be a really interesting matchup. I say we could beat them, but they haven't really beat anybody. They beat Minnesota Vikings, who's a real good team.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. We still got a second half of the season. I'm not even really focused on the playoffs right now. I'm focused on the Niners, just being healthy, going into a game against the Chargers and not being totally flat. If they come out of that game and they're aggressive and they kick ass early, I'll be very, very encouraged for the second half of the year. If they come out like they did against like some of the teams in the first half, where they're clearly better and they just find a way to suck, then I'm going to have kind of like, oh, maybe they didn't learn anything from
Aaron,
that Rams game.
I wouldn't be surprised if we go to the same exact cycle like what happened in Kansas City, where we get the the brakes blown off us against the Chargers, and everybody's like, fire Shanahan, yada yada yada, and then they bounce back the next week and have a dominant performance, and we're like, all right, the Niners are good again. We were a playoff
Right.
team, the Niners
We'll be like, oh no, they
Yeah.
suck again.
Yeah.
Ty Olson made a good point. That's something me and my brother noticed last year. My brother called the
Yeah.
Cardinals second half collapse. He said they're not a good team. Watch this. And I'm like, I don't know, Jared. They're, Sure enough, my brother was right. So Ty's right. Someone's going to drop off. It happens every year.
It happened Pittsburgh, Arizona, and now this year we'll find out.
My brother thinks it's good to lose early because it builds character.
Yeah.
He thinks it's good to have a struggle early. He'd rather you have a struggle early and come on late.
He's a Dolphins fan, so he
he's a
knows that from
Dolphins
last year. He knows that from last year, from starting off 1-7 last year, and then they bounced back in.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man, I'm rooting for them as long as they don't play us. Unless or when they play us. Ordinator Starbucks says, "Hey, Aaron, I think Cliff Spearing gets. I think Cliff Kingsbury gets fired. He's on the hot seat. Yeah, he's done. If they have a bad year this year, they finish with a bad record.
He's not.
He's not a good coach.
He's not.
And the fact that his quarterback talks to him any old way, and they just like, yeah. Kyler Murray. I guess Kyler Murray's like he wants to be he's a really good Call of Duty player, and he's like really concerned about Call of Duty coming out. So I don't know. Maybe he wants to just tank the season so he can, worry about his second career of being a Call of Duty player. I don't know.
Cliff Kingsbury is not it whatsoever.
He's not a good coach. He's a bad coach with good players.
Horrible. Yep, he's a bad. That team has all the talent, and just kind of like with Minnesota last year, Mike Zimmer, who's horrible.
I call him stretch neck Kingsbury because it always looks like he's. I'm like, what is going on with that guy? Why does his neck look like that? I don't know.
His neck is really thing Davis Mills. Have you seen that picture of Davis Mills?
I need a neck like that because I gained weight, so I got the double chin happening. If I had a neck like Davis Mills, I wouldn't have a double chin because I would have so much neck to deal with. I have a short neck. It used to be really skinny and long, and then I got fat. So, that pretty much sums up everything we had as our topics. We kind of integrated a lot of stuff. I think the only thing we have left is I just have it here is Jimmy's the key. Jimmy Garoppolo playing good translates into us being able to beat any team or at least coming close.
Yep.
People are like, what do you mean Jimmy's the key? Jimmy showed if he plays efficient football and doesn't turn the ball over and can make a couple plays, one or two big throws a game, it actually kind of helps us.
That's all we need from Jimmy.
That throw to Kittle was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
He just doesn't do it consistently.
That's
the problem.
That's the problem. Exactly. You stated it perfectly. This team is super talented. We know that.
Yeah, we're talented across the board, except maybe DT and
but the question
quarterback on the other side.
Yes, the question mark is two question marks: injuries, health.
Yeah, that's the other one too.
And Jimmy Garoppolo. Because if Jimmy Garoppolo, all we need from Jimmy Garoppolo is consistent performances of turnoverless football, making good decisions, and making one or two plays.
Right.
Just being a good game manager. Just do your job. Don't put the ball in harm's way. Be a good game manager. And if this team can stay healthy, this team can beat any team in the NFC.
Described the game manager. It's what he is, though.
Yeah,
it's okay. It's okay to be a game manager when you have a lot of good weapons.
It's okay, exactly, right? And kind of like I get it.
Just facilitate the ball like a point guard. Get your ball to your playmakers.
It's an obvious answer, but everybody goes back to Trent Dilfer. Trent Dilfer was good in those playoff games. He did what he was asked to do.
That was an all-time elite defense, though. That was like history.
That was ridiculous, right? That was a phenomenal defense. And
the Ravens. The Ravens defense was like we haven't seen a defense like that. I mean, the Niners, we thought everyone was like, oh, they're going to have an elite defense here. I don't know. I had a feeling the Niners were going to kind of drop the ball on that one just because of the health issue, but Man, this is your third $2 super chat of the evening, my man. I thank you very much. He says, if we go 5-1 in the division, we're guaranteed a playoff spot. That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm down with that. To me, it's win the division and let everything else, let the chips fall where they may. Kind of like Ty Olson was saying, just someone's going to drop off and just worry about yourself. Win the West, you're in. That's it. Win the West, you're in. That's it. You literally, all you have to do is win. Because we all know the Niners, it doesn't matter if they're on home or on the road. They can win on the road. Dude, we won in Green Bay with our quarterback not throwing or doing well.
You know what Colin Cowherd said in that game? Colin Cowherd was like, Jimmy Garoppolo outplayed Aaron Rodgers. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, he's mad. He's mad because his son or his daughter got, used in and left high and dry by Trey Lance. So he's going to forever be on Jimmy's jock.
I'm like, oh my goodness.
And Ty said it best. He's exactly what he is. He's a 2-yard throw and let the receivers do the rest. If that's what you are, accept it, embrace it. The Niners now with McCaffrey, the field's going to be really open. And imagine them with Trey Lance. Imagine that offense with Trey Lance and having McCaffrey. Dude, he could literally just dink and dunk. And then if you come up on him, he can throw it over the top. So it's
ridiculous. And that's the thing about Trey Lance that still sucks to this day that he got hurt. And that's the thing with CMC. It's great to have a guy like CMC. But that's the thing, though, about Jimmy G. Jimmy G can,
Yeah, Jimmy G is like he is the when I'm trying to think, the rudder or the sail. The ship is going to go the way that he directs it. If he sucks and has just an erratic second half where he plays really bad ball, we're done.
Yeah.
If he can come out and play just average ball and stay out of the way, I think we'll be okay. But listen, guys, that's going to do it. It's about an hour and 6 minutes. I'm going to let Amin go eat dinner, but I appreciate everybody that was in here tonight. All the people from different, streams and YouTube channels, and got my guy Jag. I'm not going to say your name wrong, but you've been very, very kind with your donations. Same thing with Rohan. Thank you very much. I will be back Monday with the NWO stream, talking bi-week stuff. More of the same, maybe a lot of just like review and looking back. But till next time, everyone, stay safe and healthy. Amin, thank you again for being an awesome co-host. And everybody enjoy the bye week. And I can't wait for us to come off and play Sunday Night Football against the San Diego Chargers. Yeah. Ty Olson asked me how I take care of that knee. Thank you very much. I get an MRI on the 12th, and I got a follow-up on the 17th, so we'll figure out what's going on. Till next time, guys, stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you later.